Welcome, everyone. This is the November 3rd meeting of the Seneca County IDA. Also, we are holding an EDC meeting as well. The normal chair is not present today, so I'll be chairing the meeting in his absence. Let's start with the approval of the last meeting's minutes. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or corrections? Is there a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Ben, thank you. Second. Tom, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are passed. The next item are two sets of financial statements, one from August, the next from September. We're going to go through those separately and approve them separately. Bob Kernan, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you. Starting with the balance sheet for August. Total assets decreased by $24,000 from $4,484,000 on July 31st to $4,459,000 on August 31st. This is due to a decline in checking and savings of $11,593, notes receivable of $9,938, and fixed assets of $2,937. Notes receivable were reduced by the payments from Bonadent, Shader, and Pine Tree Farms over the month of August in a timely manner. Fixed assets reflected depreciation expense for the month of August, again measuring $2,937. When we look at liabilities and equity, it was decreased by $24,468 due to a decline in current liabilities of $804 and a net loss of $25,271 to a level of $79,000, again on a loss basis, on August 31st. Total assets measured $5,483,769 on August 31st, 2021, representing a decline of $1,024,000 on August 31st, 2022. Total checking decreased by $118,000 in that period. Notes receivable and long-term receivables decreased again by $108,000. Fixed assets decreased $775,000, and other assets decreased by $21,000. On the profit and loss statement, ordinary income measured $214,000 on August 31st, an increase of $1,084 due to the RF revolving loan fund income of $186 and net interest income of $959. Ordinary expenses measured $295,000 on August 31st, an increase of $27,000 due to mainly to payroll and benefit costs of $17,623, professional services of $3,835, general office costs of $404, travel and conferences of $1,300, and depreciation expense of $2,937. Net ordinary income measured a loss of $79,341 on August 31st, 2022, a decrease of $25,271 due to the items noted above. And that's a quick review of the financials for August. Are there any questions?
Hearing no questions for Bob, do we have a motion to accept the August financial statements? Tom, second?
Second.
Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we've accepted those financial statements. Bob, thank you. And now on to September.
Goes through a similar scenario. Balance sheet, total assets decreased by $56,000 from $4,484,000 on August 31st, 2021 to $4,402,000 on September 30th. Due to a decline in checking and savings of $31,000, notes receivable of $35,000, and fixed assets of $2,900. Notes receivable were reduced by payments from Bonadent, Trader, and Pine Tree Farms for August. This is for September, and all loans are due and payable on a timely basis. There was also a new loan generated for estimated for $45,000. Fixed assets reflected depreciation expense for the month of September of 2037. Total liabilities and equity decreased by $56,000 due to an increase in, due to a total current liabilities of $719 and a net loss of $57,000 to a level of $136,878 as of September 30th. Total assets measured $5,450,000 on September 30th, representing a total decline of $1,047,000 from September of 2021. Total checking and savings decreased to $122,000. Note receivable long-term decreased by $72,000. 56 fixed assets decreased by $830,000 to other assets, and other assets decreased by $21,000. On the profit and loss statement, ordinary income measured $203,810 on September 30th, a decrease of $12,451 due to agency fees of $6,120, RFE income of $820, and interest income of $1,107. Net loss of $20,498 on Deer Run property was also recognized in the month of September. Ordinary expenditures measured $340,000 on September 30th, an increase of $45,000 due mainly to benefit and payroll costs of $30,000, professional services of $6,250, general office costs of $845, travel and conferences of $670, and RLF expense of $3,043. Depreciation measured $2,937. Net ordinary income measured $136,878 on a negative basis as of September 30th, a decrease of $57,000 due to the items noted above. Again, a quick synopsis. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the September financial statements?
So moved.
Jeff, thanks. Second. Tom, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we've accepted your statements, Bob, thank you. Okay, on to the next item, which is the discussion approval of IDA final resolution number 202-15, the Wilkins Recreational Vehicles, Inc. Sarah, do you want to describe this
Sure.
item?
Thank you, Bruce. So this is the final resolution for the Wilkins RV project, meaning this is the final stage of board approval, pending which the project would then move to closing. So just to refresh everyone's memories, the proposed incentives are as follows: a sales tax and mortgage reporting tax and property tax exemptions for the company to build an RV sales and service center in the town of Junius. Estimated property tax exemption is approximately $161,000 over a 10-year period, with the company expected to make about $446,000 in pilot payments. The estimated sales and mortgage reporting tax exemptions are $625,000 and $75,000 respectively. This project is expected to retain 37.5 jobs and create an additional 26. The cost benefit analysis that was done for the project shows $60.74 in benefit to the public for every $1 in incentives granted. We did hold a public hearing for this project on August 22nd. There were no comments received for or against the project. However, the assessor was in attendance and had a few questions regarding some of the technicalities of the pilot, but that was really the only comment that was made at the time. We are able to look at final approval at this point in time because the town has completed their seeker and found no adverse impacts as a result of this project.
This year found you were able to answer the assessor's questions and get that resolved?
Yes.
Any questions for Sarah on the Wilkins project? Any comments? Okay, we will need a voice a roll call vote on this. Is there a motion to approve it?
So made.
Tom, a second? Second. Murray, second. Kelly?
Mr. Guthrie,
Yes.
Mr. Kine,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Brusso, Mr. Trout, and Mr. Lott absent. Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for your work on that one. Next item is the Governance Committee report. Steve was the chair of the Governance Committee. He's not here. Sarah, can you review for us what the Governance Committee covered?
Yes. So on your agenda, you will see a rather long list of things that the Governance Committee reviewed at the last meeting. All of these were reviewed and approved for recommendation to be approved by the full board. So the first item that we have is a new proposed policy for this year, being our project fee schedule. And really this is just breakout and some additional information. Some of this are things that we aren't changing, and some of this are a couple of new items to address different circumstances. Other than that, we are also putting forward some established policies that don't have any modifications for this year. As you all are probably aware by now, we do review our policies annually and then recommend any appropriate changes. Most of them have all been updated recently, so no additional updates were necessary. We have nomination of officers, the self-evaluation of the Governance Committee, which we'll get to, and then some contract renewals. So those are sort of the major items. Let's start with the proposed policies and the project fee schedule specifically. So we have 4 different sort of scenarios broken down here for you all to see. The straight lease transaction, which is our pilot, and that can include a sales and mortgage recording tax exemption. There really is no change here in the fee schedule itself. This is what we have always had, a non-refundable application fee of $350, and then our agency fee is based on 1% of the total capital cost. The changes are in the next 2 items, which is if a company were to come to us for a sales tax exemption only, so without a pilot, and or a mortgage recording tax exemption only. We have done a couple of these a long time ago, but never really had a separate policy for how we would charge fees accordingly. We are proposing, and this again has been reviewed and recommended for approval by the Governance Committee. We are proposing for sales tax exemption only an agency fee of 1% of the sales taxable amount. And then for mortgage recording tax exemptions, 0.1% of the mortgage amount. So that the math works out such that the value of the benefit to the company is still greater than what we would be receiving in administrative fees. And in the case where there were both, those agency fees would essentially combine as a formula in the absence of a pilot. Any questions on either of those? And then taxable and tax exempt bonds, that's the same policy. We've always had 1% of the benefits provided for those. On the back side, you will see our estimated legal fees based on different types of assistance that was provided to us by Rob, just to give companies a bit of a ballpark, because that is a common question that we get from folks is, how much can we expect to pay?
I'm always asking about these acronyms. What's UTEP, UTEP?
UTEP is our Uniform Tax Exemption Policy. So that dictates the types of projects that we can do and the types of incentives that can be provided. It's generally pretty broad, but our UTEP does specify on our pilots what the total duration can be. The maximum duration specifies 20 years. It specifies the value of the exemption that can be provided at a maximum, those types of things.
Those state guidelines?
Those are set by our individual agency, but there are some state guidelines that are baked into that in terms of what types of businesses we can or cannot assist. The major one being retail business.
Thank you.
Of course, these are general guideline. Any additional costs or charges for complications, whatnot, you'll charge what that cost is going to be, that gets passed on.
Yes.
Questions for Sarah on this first item of proposed policies? Do we have a motion to accept the new proposed policies?
I move to accept.
Ben, a second?
Second.
We will need a roll call vote here. Kelly?
Mr. Guthrie,
Yes.
Mr. Kine,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Brusso, Mr. Lot, and Mr. Trout absent, motion carried.
Okay, number 2, the established policies that have not been modified.
So I will read through the list here. They are not included in your packet for conserving paper, but if anybody for some reason has not seen these, we can get you a Dropbox link if you would like it. So the policies that are being proposed with no modifications are administrative guidelines, policies and procedures, our audit committee charter, IDA bylaws, code of ethics, our conflict of interest, our capitalization policy, disposition of property policy, equal opportunity policy, finance committee charter, our FOIL policy, our governance committee charter, investment policy, local labor policy, prevailing wage policy, procurement policy, records and retention policy, sexual harassment policy, supplies and equipment policy, our UTEP, and our mission statement.
Questions on the fine print of our policies? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept and leave them as is for this year?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
So we need a roll call here.
Mr. Guthrie,
Yes.
Mr. Kine,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Brusso, Mr. Lot, Mr. Trout absent, motion carried.
Okay, on the next item, which does not require any action here, just for everyone's information, we have from the Governance Committee nominations for officers for next year.
Yes, so we will vote on these at our January organizational meeting. But the proposed slate of officers for next year is as follows. Steve Brusso is chair, and he wanted to make everybody aware that that will be his last year as chair. He's done it for many years for us and done it very well, but just as a heads up, we will be needing some changes in leadership following 2023. Bruce Murray has agreed to remain as vice chair. Ben Guthrie is treasurer, and Ralph Lott is secretary. So certainly, if anybody is interested in one of those positions and was not part of the recommended nominations, let us know. Obviously, this is not being voted on today and will be voted on in January. So it's never too late to volunteer.
All right, next, the self-evaluation of the Governance Committee.
So this was in your packet and is a summary of the business items that the Governance Committee has completed for 2022. There have been no proposed changes to the Governance Committee charter or the guidelines. And also there were no documents that were disposed of per our records and retention policy. There was one Governance Committee meeting this year in which they provided their recommendations to the full board to approve the new fee schedule, review and recommend approval of our established policies, review and renew the professional service contracts, and nominate officers for the new year. So that's it. That's just for informational purposes.
And then finally, on contract renewals for professional services of 2023, this will be a vote.
So we have 5 contracts up for renewal, and many of these are without changes, so I will go through each one for you. So Fisher Associates, that authorizes us to spend up to $10,000 annually for engineering services. Oftentimes we don't actually tap into this contract at all, but it has been useful in the past when we need their assistance in the event that the IDA serves as lead agency on seeker or other items such as that. Then we've got, I'm going to skip over Germany, Burke, and Brown for now. We've got our bookkeeper, Ellie Beatty. So she does bookkeeping services for the IDA, the EDC, and the Funding Corp at a rate of $675 a month for 20 hours, and then additional hours are billed at a rate of $30. That is not a change from this current year. Jim Armstrong does our business retention and expansion services. His contract is limited up to $15,000 per year, but again, most often it's not getting to that full contract amount. And Bob Kernan is CFO, CFO services for the IDA at $1,000 a month. Then there has been one small change to the Germany Burke and Brown contract. They do our accounting services for the IDA. They are requesting a $50 increase in their monthly fee, so going from $900 a month to $950 a month. And that is it for our contracts.
Questions, comments? Do we have a motion to approve the contract renewals for 2023? A second?
Second.
Ben? Kelly?
Mr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Russo? Mr. Lot? Mr. Trout? Absent. Motion carried.
Thank you. Jeff, you're up next.
Chamber of Commerce report. So I wanted to bring one thing to the table for anybody that has any colleagues, friends, family in the business community. The Chamber, along with the Small Business Development Center from Onondaga, will be hosting a free webinar on November 9th with an expert from Google. It is all about growing your business with Google. So a great opportunity for our local business community to take advantage of that platform. Very important for search engine purposes. Obviously, our county manager is not here, but in today's Seneca meeting, we heard a brief update on the broadband committee, something that I sit on as well. And the town of Tyre is planning to move forward with implementation for the town of Tyre's build out for broadband, which is an exciting development. The county continues to look for engineering services in order to position the county to take advantage of grants that are out there for the countywide implementation. But exciting news with the town of Tyre. Other than that, the chamber very busy in tourism marketing work for next year, getting plans ready for next year. But I definitely want to highlight the county manager had referenced us at the last board meeting in terms of the tourism growth, the growth in tourism occupancy tax, certainly the growth in sales tax. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the county manager for that. It's been a big effort on a lot of people. We're excited to see tourism grow. So with that, a couple things that I learned at the tourism conference.
On that one, Jeff, I think it's notable what the size of the increase in the short-term rental revenues, as well as the size of the increase in sales tax for the county. It's pretty substantial. You might want to share those numbers.
That it is. I do not have the number of
the budget. There was a draft budget presented at the last supervisors meeting, and the short-term rental tax revenues grew, I think Mitch said, from something like $200,000 a year back when maybe he returned to the role or when he was in the role in the early teens. It hit about $730,000 in short-term rental revenue this year, which is a big, big increase. And it I think, indicates just how important the tourism industry and the short-term rental market is to this county in general. I think he also, if I've got the numbers right, presented a draft budget showing sales tax revenue for the year growing from something on the order of 28 million to 31 million, which is, I think, a pretty substantial increase in sales tax, which, we don't know every single source of that, but I think the tourism industry and the chamber's efforts, as well as everyone else's efforts, to make this a destination for people in the Northeast region a success. It's really economic drivers for the county. We've got hard numbers here that are new records. Sorry to interrupt you, Jim.
No, certainly.
Just to tell you, you've done a great job.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing with the rest. A couple tidbits. I just recently returned from the State Tourism Conference. A couple things that I took away, thought I'd share. One, the World Canal Conference is coming to Buffalo in 2025. So hopefully we see some spin-off for some of that activity. And a trend that was talked about, and I don't know if some of you have experienced this or implemented this, but dynamic pricing is a new trend that has been occurring in the hospitality industry along with other industries. For example, you would pay more at a restaurant on a weekend versus midweek. So just something to keep your eye on as inflation continues to hit all of us, particularly in the hospitality businesses. Couple tips. That's my report.
Questions for Jeff? Comments?
Jeff, with the broadband build-out, I thought a lot of that was going to be funded from the federal government, the infrastructure bill. But you were saying you're still looking for funding?
So there are multiple grant programs, Ben, and as it relates to the county's build-out, there are some significant grant programs to help offset those costs. And so the county wants to get all of its ducks in a row and make sure that they are in a position to go after some of those. The federal,
so that hasn't been secured yet?
It has not, right.
Okay.
And the federal bill has that a component of that, but details are few and far between on that one right now. So the other sources, the county is trying to position itself to be able to get a hold of those, take advantage of those. And for that, you need some services that a consulting firm would be able to offer. So that's what the county is working on right now. And I know the county manager in specific has a couple of leads that he's following up on that he shared with us. Yep.
Thank you, Jeff. We're missing our representative from the Board of Supervisors, Down Trout. That brings us to other business. Is there other business anybody would like to put on the table? Anything that we want to say about the status of our Willard process? There was another tour. Did we report on the other tour?
We did. We talked about it, I believe, at our special board meeting, the second Willard tour. So let's see, Willard Updates. We are working on drafting the RFP for the highest and best use study that was approved at the last board meeting. I've been in talks with Jeff and also with the county manager about putting together a Willard task force to focus on sort of all of the different aspects of redevelopment. More to come on that. We, as of right now, I think have the sort of list and just need to formally reach out and invite everybody to participate and get a first meeting scheduled for that group. Other Willard updates, we are expecting a response this afternoon from the state in regards to some of the follow-up questions that people had after that last October 11th tour. A couple of the items of note were the town of Romulus has spent a fair amount of money on the water treatment facility and the operations of it, and was looking for some compensation from docs relating to that. And then one of the other key items from the Department of Corrections, sorry. acronyms. And then the other key item that was brought to our attention is there is what they call the Blue Book of Willard, which is essentially master blueprints of the entire facility, and we're trying to see if we can get access to that as a community. Be very helpful information. So I will let you all know when we have updates on that next month, but that's sort of where things stand on Willard right now. The Historical Society does have their annual meeting coming up later this month, and looks like that meeting is going to be largely centered around the Willard redevelopment. So if anybody is interested, I believe the date is November 15th. Could be mistaken. 12th? Okay, 7 p.m. So that should be a interesting meeting to attend. I'm planning to go, but if anybody else is interested, the speaker is Katie Eggers-Cuomo. She's with the National, oh my goodness, I'm gonna butcher it. She has a historic preservation background and will be speaking about the types of developments that have been undertaken at other historic sites, and from that perspective, what could be done at Willard. So for anybody that's interested.
Are any of these buildings historical designations today?
So this year, the entire campus was designated as being eligible for the National Historic Registry by the state of New York. So the state Historic Preservation Office deemed that it could be eligible to be added to the registry. That is not to say that it's on the registry.
If we're going to be involved with doing that, I'd hesitate to take that exemption or that position unless we knew there was funding or something coming with it. Otherwise, it just puts the brakes on everything.
One of the pieces of our highest and best use study that we're hoping to look at is what role could the registry play potentially in redevelopment versus where it might be a hindrance. Certainly there are some buildings there that are beyond salvageable. So obviously that needs to be an ongoing conversation. This is more for informational purposes if anybody wants to sort of, be part of this discussion. That this meeting is
So where's that meeting
on
gonna
the
be?
agenda. Let me see if I can pull up the actual invite here. I will make sure I give you
Maybe
guys all
just
the
send a
appropriate
link.
details.
Send a link to all of us.
I can do that.
Just another note for folks who haven't been following this closely, there was some concern that the state was in the process, that is this entity, DOCS, the Department of Corrections, was in the process of decommissioning this facility, meaning turning off the utilities, the heat, the electric, the water. And with the efforts of a number of people, the state committed $4 million to keep the facility open and, or at least warm and not to deteriorate any further through this current winter. But after, it's a $4 million price tag. It kind of is a one-year deal, I think, though no one has said that for sure.
That'd be pretty.
And so it seems like a lot to keep the place open. I know it does. We're not really privy to the details. We don't see the payroll. We don't see the utility bills. We're not actually yet in a position to leverage that information. Nonetheless, what it kind of says is they may do that 1 year, but not 2, probably. So there's a bit of a timeline here. I think having gone through the second tour, it gets a little clearer what's really there after touring it twice. One is it's large, it's 500 plus acres. There's a mile of very, very attractive waterfront. There's also a fairly unique facility that was designed and operated as a prison. There are possibilities there. And then there are just acres and acres of other available space. I think the scale of it is pretty sizable. A developer that's interested in the waterfront may not be interested in the prison for different reasons. They're not, look, if you're going to put a waterfront destination there, may or may not want to be responsible for renovating visit into a facility that might be economically viable. So there'll probably be 3 or 4, my guess, 5 different segments of interested parties when the time comes. Task force that Sarah has suggested, I think, could be helpful because it's not an IDA only task force. It's not simply a member of an overall.
Is anybody else going to put in funds into doing this study besides us?
CBD.
Yes, so as of right now, the plan is for the IDA to fund it in its entirety. Obviously, we've made those accommodations in our budget, but it is possible that a study is going to be more expensive than what we had planned for, and then we would certainly tap into most likely the county ARPA funds to cover any balance. And they have, made us aware of the fact that they would be willing potentially to do that. But obviously Willard, like Bruce said, is very expensive property. There are a lot of complications there, and the chances of the state continuing to make investment to keep the place heated throughout another winter is probably unlikely. It's not necessarily outside of the realm of possibility, but we do need to make some contingency plans, which I think is where this task force is really going to come into play, of helping to make sure that we have all the information and can figure out sort of worst case scenario, best case scenario, and figure out the best path forward for the redevelopment. In terms of the Historical Society, I have the flyer pulled up, and I will forward this to everyone after the meeting. It is Tuesday, November 15th at 7 p.m. at the Romulus Town Hall. And Katie Como is from the Preservation League of New York State. Says she'll be offering examples of what has worked at similar places to bring positive developments to local communities. So again, just if anybody is interested, that'll be, one piece of the ongoing discussion, certainly, as we look at this. And as of right now, the task force, I believe the list of names we had was around 15 or 16 in total, with all kinds of different organizational backgrounds. So once everyone has been formally invited and accepted, I'm sure we would be happy to share that list with you all at the next meeting and give you a sense of, who is going to be helping
What's the amount of money ultimately that we said we were going to commit to this?
So we have 100 that was in our sort of site development line of the budget, and then I think it was about 93 of our remaining grant funds from the state. So almost $200,000 in total.
The other
But you're saying, Bruce, that you think it's going to be more than that, and we should.
Well, I think the other data point that we need to pay attention to is the report from the state's Prison Redevelopment Commission, because they kind of, I think, have at least the mandate from the state to make some recommendation about how to resolve or what the next best step is. My guess is, I'm not an expert in this, but it would seem like a comprehensive assessment of what the highest and best use is of a property this size is going to cost more than $200,000.
Right, hopefully we don't take so long to get there, to get through the process that we'll have spent this money
And then
run out of money to keep the place up because the state backs out of it, then we've thrown $200,000 away. If the assessment is on land and land use and lake footage, that's one thing. If we're going to be doing a lot with this Historical Society on what the buildings can be used for, and the buildings are going to fall down before you get through the process, and we're throwing $200,000 away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of timing questions to ask here.
My-
And are the players that we're going to get involved with it, we don't dictate this, obviously. Are the players that are going to be involved with it going to help facilitate that, or are they going to be a hindrance to the process, and we're just throwing money away while everybody tells us what to do with it?
I don't think it would make sense to spend any money before we hear what the
Yeah,
state's.
I think it's a great thing, and I think it is. It just, it's an undertaking. I think it's bigger than what we think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this is definitely going to be a large project. It's going to involve many members of the community. I don't think anybody here, I don't think anybody here is, thinking this is going to be a simple, easy fix. As far as timelines go, the state has said that they plan to have their study from the Prison Redevelopment Commission done by the end of this year. I would anticipate with timing of getting an RFP out and getting bid respondents that we would be in a position maybe to select a firm by February of next year. So that would give us time to see what the state has put out. Certainly if we're able to get access to things like a blue book that does sort of limit some of the work that we would need a firm to complete for us, it would involve, a little bit less research on their end as far as baseline of the property. But a lot of, like I said, a lot of what the task force is really going to be doing is figuring out, okay, under which scenarios can we continue to operate? I mean, there is a scenario for Willard where the state completely leads the redevelopment effort, where they issue an RFP. And I'm not saying that that's ideal, but that is, a potential scenario where we don't have to push it all for any kind of local control, would have a lot fewer expenses. But from what I've heard from other counties that have been dealing with this and what we're hearing locally is that is really not the ideal option. It would be better to try to have it in some sort of local control for redevelopment. And that is going to mean the reality of, potentially millions of dollars to support things like insurance and utilities and grounds maintenance and upkeep. So
The worst scenario is that you try to do this locally, but the state and all the different entities are going to dictate how it's all done.
Right.
And so then you're spending money and they're dictating everything, which they're going to want. If they're going to dictate everything, us spending money will be all out of money before you even get started.
Right.
So it's the process here and the timeline. I think the whole evaluation group, everyone will want to talk about great facility, properties, what we can do and all that. What they better talk about is what's the process? Who's going to do this and how are you going to approach it? Because it's really interesting and great to go after what that can be. I think it's a great thing. But you will burn through the money we're talking about before we even get a process together. And that's, I think the group better talk about the process and what are some different ways to go about it.
And the timeliness of that.
That's part of the whole,
Back in
that's what I'm saying, it's
winter
part of the whole
season.
process. What do you think this is going to be, how long it's going to take? And
Yeah.
those are the things that you need to focus on to begin with.
yes.
And then based upon what that looks like is what do or don't we do.
So those are all things that we are anticipating and will certainly be some of the initial challenges that the group works through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And work
I ju-
through it, but it's
Yeah.
a process.
I just think it's interesting to see what's happening because of the deal in Syracuse that's potentially going to be built. That how quickly other businesses are jumping onto shovel-ready sites along, Genesee County just landed that $300 million piece, and it's about places that are ready to roll. And I worry that we're behind the eight ball on that in a lot of aspects.
Interesting, and I don't think any of us want to just turn our back on it and forget about it, but you can burn through what we're talking about really quick.
Yes.
Sure. My sense again is that the Micron project is a long-term project. There's a $20 billion chip fab operation. It's going to spawn all kinds of businesses, but it won't spawn them next week. So we need to line up certainly to see if it makes sense to.
It could be 20 years before it reaches its full potential.
Yeah, correct. That's what I've read.
Well, and in terms of Genesee County, that, the announcement was just made. It makes it seem like everything is fast, like, oh, there's this big Micron announcement, and then now there's this announcement in Genesee County, but that's not really the reality. These are projects that have been months in the making with our partners at Greater Rochester Enterprise. They've been working on site visits and things, and, they track their projects much like we do in terms of, how likely they are to close and things like that. And obviously they're in an advantage that Stamp Park is huge. It's this, similar to White Pines in the sense that, it's those types of shovel-ready sites that are enabling these projects. And we are certainly behind the 8 ball in the sense that we don't have anything that can compete with those. And that's where it's important for us to really understand what assets we do have. And
this is a totally different type of project, and so I don't see us
Yes.
as competing with that, other
No.
than the state's prioritization of different things they're gonna get involved with. But it is a totally different thing. I just think we gotta manage what that project is, what the expectations are, what are we trying to do, and get some reality to that process
Yep.
down, so we don't all get excited about it, spend $200,000 and find we're in the same exact spot we are today. So,
yes.
again,
Well,
not against it a bit.
I would say that the Army Depot was a lot of lessons learned for everybody here in the sense of it was really a wake-up call for expectations when it comes to government involvement in local, property and what we can expect from the condition and, ongoing support, virtually none. And it's also sort of a wake-up call in terms of how long it really takes to develop a property. And I think that, if anything, that's an advantage to us with Willard because unfortunately, as a community, we've learned the hard way, and now we know we need to take into account all of these items
And I
from the
think
very
this is a whole
beginning.
different type of development and the type of entities that would get involved, which frankly, I think that's where you gotta get to, is those entities, if there's developers that could potentially be interested in doing this, I mean, for real developers, that would help foot some of this bill and help pay for it, we could facilitate and also do that, maybe help to facilitate getting some state funding and other things to go along with it. There's a number of things that we could do with this. But if we just jump into it and start spending money, hiring people and doing things without a real structure to what we hope to accomplish and with who, we'll spend the money and we won't have hardly gotten out the door yet.
Yep, so the plan is to sort of be operating some of these things simultaneously. The task force will start and will get underway with a lot of the work that it needs to do well before we come to make any decisions about hiring somebody to do a study. And a big part of that is going to be estimates on, insurance and upkeep and other things that we would need to know what we think would be a realistic timeline for redevelopment, what are scenarios for obtaining funding, whether that's from the county, from the state, from donations, from private contributions, whatever that is, and put together essentially a baseline of what is everything that we know, and then how do we figure out how to connect all of those dots and make something that can.
There's a different aspect of the development of that relative to the lake frontage, some of the buildings, and some of the rest of it. And then, I think if you look at it all as one project, that's not realistically how it's going to go down either.
No, it's really going to be
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah.
multiple
And I commend you
projects.
for diving into it. I think it's a good thing. I just think we need to think pretty hard about what the process timelines and costs are, and when do you put money in, and who's driving that. Thanks for that.
Agreed. Anything else under new business? No reason for an executive session that I know of. So unless there's any further topics to cover, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everyone. The next meeting is going to happen right here. Jeff, you're on.
Okay, I will call the meeting of the Economic Development Corporation to order. There's two of us today, I guess. But in the packet, the first order of business is the approval of our meeting minutes. It is in the packet, Tom, our meeting on October 6th. So could I have a motion to approve the minutes? And I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to the EDC quarterly financial statements. This is June 2022 through September 2022. Sarah, is there anything, or Bob, was there
Bob.
anything you would like to add on?
I would just note that the asset base at the end of September was $149,000. and that's all in cash. We have no liabilities at this point, and our net equity is $149,000 again, which is equal to our asset position. Beginning net assets were $163,000, and year-to-date loss through September was $14,000. On the P&L side, total income, $84, and that's an interest. Expenses, $14,000. Net operating loss in this case is $14,000. And for non-operating income and non-operating expenses is the $600,000. And that's basically carryover. Washes itself out.
Yeah, that was a pass-through grant for Seneca Dairy System. So the money came in from the state and went right back out to the company.
Bottom line again is a minus 14,000 period.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, can I have an approval of the financial statements?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. This one is regarding, next order of business is the Governance Committee report. The Governance Committee did meet to discuss the policies, very similar to the full IDA board. Sarah, how about I turn it over to you to walk us through what the Governance Committee recommendations are?
Sure. So this year, the Governance Committee isn't recommending any new policies or any changes to established policies. So they've recommended the following, and I'll read through the list with no modifications. The Audit Committee Charter, the bylaws, the capitalization policy, the Code of Ethics, the Conflict of Interest, Disposition of Property Policy, Equal Opportunity Policy, Finance Committee Charter, FOIL Policy, Governance Committee Charter, Investment Policy, Mission Statement, Procurement Policy, Records and Retention Policy, Sexual Harassment Policy, Supplies and Equipment Policy, and Whistleblower Policy.
No changes. Do we need a motion to pass these?
We do.
Policies?
We need a motion, a second, and then a roll call vote, which will be simple.
Which will be the same as that. Short, right? Okay.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to accept?
So made.
And I'll second.
Roll call, yes and yes.
Roll call.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Russo, absent, motion carried.
Moving on to nominations of the 2023 EDC officers. This will be a short.
Yep, so the proposal is to keep the officers the same as this year, and no vote is needed today. You'll vote on this in the new year, but the chair would be Steve Brousseau, Vice Chair Jeff, and Tom is Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, let's see. Next is the self-evaluation of the EDC Governance Committee.
So the EDC's Governance Committee is reporting that there are no changes to the governance charter or guidelines, no documents disposed of, and there was one Governance Committee meeting at which the group reviewed the established policies, reviewed and renewed contracts, and nominated officers for the following year.
Good. And then lastly, I think our contract renewal is similar to the IDA.
Yeah.
And Bob Kernan and Smith.
Yes, and for the EDC, that contract is at a rate of $250 a month for CFO services.
Okay. So can I have a motion to accept this?
So made.
Second. We can do, we don't have to do a roll call here, right? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Very good. Other business. Do we have any other business? I think we can skip through that. We have no reason for an executive session, so I'll see you, Bruce, and I'll raise you with the time frame on this one. Okay. Do I need? I guess it's probably moved, but motion to adjourn. All right, second. All in favor? Thank you.
That's it. to everyone.
Good.